Whew. Hey. Hey, guys. You're right on time. Well, I hope you're hungry. Whew. Boy, have I have a story for you. Getting these ingredients was murder. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it. Why don't you just join me in the kitchen, all right? I'll see you in there. An old saying dictates to keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. The idea behind the maxim is that it's important to keep tabs on the affairs of those who wish you ill, so that you're aware if any of their plotting could focus on you. But what if you're not sure who your enemies even are? What if you think you have no enemies, when in fact, you're having drinks with them right now? This is where the old saying lends itself to a valuable second meaning. You see, not only is it important to stay abreast of the actions of known enemies behind the scenes, but it can be just as important to take careful stock of the ones that you call friends, who, unbeknownst to you, may have changed allegiances to your detriment. My mom once told me that everyone you pal around with during good times and celebrations is not always your friend. You see, your friends are there during the quiet times, even rough times, to lend support and comfort when you're at your most vulnerable, without need for credit or payment. When two people who are each facing similar life struggles meet, the connection may seem like kindred spirits, forging bonds through adversity. But never forget that adversity highlights a person's true character, a character that could be deadly to whomever gets in their way. Today's story is about Ashley McArthur, a chaotic individual who befriended a new person in town through partying and good times, only to rain terror on her when her usefulness was at an end. My name is Ronnie, and welcome to RV Crime Kitchen, where we serve up murder mysteries along with cuisine inspired by the locations of those tragic events. Right here from my RV in the heart of New York City. The location of the crime, Pensacola, Florida. Today's dish, pan-seared Florida grouper with smoked Gouda grits and tomato bacon gravy. So what do you say? Let's cook. Our case takes us to Pensacola, Florida. Population, 54,000. It's the westernmost city in the Florida Panhandle. It's a port city that's surrounded by the Pensacola Bay and the border island Santa Rosa, which separates it from the Gulf of Mexico. It's known for its beautiful white sandy beaches and has a long history, having been originally settled by the Muskogean-speaking people as far back as 1250 CE until the first Spanish settlers in 1550. Pensacola has a lot of state parks, museums, and is close to the main campus of the University of West Florida. It's also the home of the famous Blue Angels, the U.S. Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron. Among the city's many nicknames are the West Gate to the Sunshine State and the City of Five Flags, commemorating the rule of the Spanish, French, Great Britain, U.S., and the United States of the Confederacy. So there you go. When you're out in the area, make sure you check it out. But it was here in 2017 that Taylor Wright, 33, touched down in Pensacola. That year, Taylor moved to Pensacola for a fresh start. You see, she was in the middle of a divorce. These divorce proceedings were from a 10-year marriage, and she had recently left South Carolina, where she was a police officer. She was also the mother of an 8-year-old son. Shortly after arriving in Pensacola, Taylor met a school administrator named Cassandra Waller on a dating app. Things progressed swiftly between the two, and Taylor eventually moved into Waller's home. Taylor's ex-husband, Jeff Wright, retained primary custody of their son. For all the hopeful beginnings, new city, new career, and new girlfriend, it may not have been the best time for Taylor to bring a new person into her life so quickly. You see, Taylor had some bad habits to overcome, such as her own drug use and issues with promiscuity. Waller had even caught Taylor using drugs and cheating already, which had been putting a strain on their new relationship. Unfortunately, Taylor was less than honest in other areas of her life as well. She was still battling her ex in court over child support. And, without legal authority, she withdrew $100,000 from a joint bank account that she shared with her husband. The judge overseeing the case made it very clear that if the money was not returned to the escrow account, Taylor would be jailed. Prior to the judge's warning, Taylor had given a portion of that money, $35,000 in fact, to one of her new Pensacola friends, Ashley McArthur, for safekeeping in Ashley's Wells Fargo account. On September 7th, 2017, Taylor had confided in Waller that she was under enormous pressure due to the entire situation. By then, Taylor had been asking Ashley to make time to return the money, with zero results. With the amount of money on the line and her freedom hanging in the balance, Taylor likely thought Ashley would have taken the matter more seriously and raced to give back the money without delay. But that's not what happened at all. Instead, Ashley was giving Taylor the old runaround concerning the money. Not a good look, especially for a friend when your back is against the wall. Finally, apparently no longer able to avoid the inevitable meeting, Ashley agreed to take Taylor to the bank to withdraw the money. She drove up to the home Taylor shared with Waller. Waller said her hellos and goodbyes without thinking for a second that she would never see her girlfriend Taylor alive again. Hours later, Ashley called Waller to explain that instead of going to the bank, Taylor wanted to go horseback riding to relieve some stress from the divorce case. This seemed strange to Waller, and she relayed to Ashley to tell Taylor that whatever was going on, they would get through it together. That night, Waller received a text message from Taylor's phone, apologizing and explaining that she needed time to be alone and to get her life back on track. Waller responded with a series of text messages of her own, out of anger and frustration that she was being shut out of Taylor's life. Those text messages, of course, went unanswered. Waller then contacted the police to file a missing persons report after not being able to reach Taylor again. Days went by, then a week. Police contacted Jeff, Taylor's ex. She hadn't tried to reach out to their son at all, something that she would have done if she was going to be offline for any period of time. Jeff testified that Taylor and their son would communicate daily, usually by text, as their son had their own cell phone. The thought process among investigators is that the case was quickly morphing from that of a missing person to foul play. So by now, we know in missing persons cases that the first people who have to be interviewed are those closest to the victim. Now, Jeff was ruled out quickly as he was hundreds of miles away on the day of her disappearance, September 8th, 2017. Police then sought Waller's interview. She was visibly shook at the thought of her girlfriend having been murdered. But she was just as upset about being labeled a person of interest. Next, they logically decided to interview the last person seen with the victim, Ashley McArthur. When cops asked Ashley about the original plan to go to Wells Fargo on September 8, 2017, she feigned ignorance, claiming she never had an account at Wells Fargo. However, in text messages between Taylor and Ashley as recently as the day before they met up, the very clear implication was that Taylor believed Ashley had her money and that they had a prearranged appointment to go get it. If Ashley thought Taylor was mistaken, she made no effort to type a rebuttal stating as much. According to Ashley, after leaving Taylor and Waller's home, she and Taylor made a few stops, including getting a beer for Taylor at 10 a.m. They then drove to the Britt family horse farm in Milton, where Taylor drank and blew off steam, according to Ashley. Ashley then told the police she drove her and Taylor back to Ashley's home in Pensacola. Taylor then used her Uber account to get a ride, where she was headed to some bars for some more drinking. And that's Ashley's story. Now, before we get into exploring more of the holes in her story, and there are some large ones, let's take a closer look at Ashley McArthur, the person. Ashley McArthur was born Ashley Britt in 1977. She grew up an only child and eventually became a police officer and crime scene investigator in North Carolina. Later, she suffered some serious injuries related to a car accident. She left the police department after a year and began working for her family-owned gaming supply company in Pensacola. They would lease pool tables, arcade games, and jukeboxes to pool halls and other entertainment venues. She would go on to marry Zachary McArthur, himself a former cop. Ashley had some problems of her own. She had a long-standing affair with the owner of Stitz, a pool hall that rented games from Ashley. While it may have started off professionally enough, she became a very nearly daily fixture at the bar. She was also found guilty of embezzling large sums of money from two companies doing business with their family's company. She would use these funds to spend lavishly on her boyfriend, buying him ATVs, bar supplies, a motorcycle, and a boat. When it came to the money she was hiding for Taylor, Ashley wasn't able to constrain herself from stealing it. In fact, she started looting Taylor's money almost immediately. Bank records and CCTV showed Ashley trying to forge Taylor's signature on checks made out to Taylor to deposit in her own account. Ashley had no means to return Taylor's money because she spent it. Apparently, a third potential embezzlement charge was a bridge too far, but not murder. When Taylor expressed the urgent need to get the money back, she inadvertently started her own death clock. It's not entirely clear if Ashley's CSI career didn't pan out due to incompetence, because she left some pretty avoidable breadcrumbs that led directly to her, as far as investigators were concerned. CCTV showed her driving to Home Depot to buy quick-drying cement and potting soil. On the last day anyone saw Taylor, phone records show Ashley's texted her cousin, who worked on the horse farm, to make sure he'd be away on the day of the murder. He was attending a funeral out of town. Cell tower records also showed Ashley was at the farm when she claimed she had already driven back home and parted ways with Taylor. She claimed to police that Taylor took an Uber home. However, Taylor's Uber account had not been used in months. In October 2017, about a month after Taylor's disappearance, detectives requested another interview with Ashley, who agreed. What she didn't know is that they had already obtained a search warrant to search the Milton property for the body of Taylor Wright. A team composed of the Pensacola Police Department, Escambia County Sheriff, and the County Fish and Wildlife Patrol had descended on the property to conduct the search. A search and rescue team with cadaver dogs were brought in, but a member of the Fish and Wildlife team found a partially exposed skull under some tent material. Fresh, broken branches, potting soil, and quick-dry cement. It would later be determined the body belonged to Taylor Wright. The cement was similar to what Ashley was seen on CCTV purchasing at Home Depot the day Taylor disappeared. The badly decomposed body was located along the fence line towards the rear of the farm owned by Ashley's family. Despite her persistent denials of any wrongdoing, Ashley was arrested and went on trial for first-degree premeditated murder on August 26, 2019. In addition to the bank account evidence proving Ashley stole Taylor's money as motive for the killing, she also had the best and last opportunity to kill than anyone. Ashley also claimed to have never seen Taylor after her Uber took her away from Ashley's home. Yet, cell tower records showed Taylor's phone and Ashley's phone were together well into the night at the Milton farm. The next day, Ashley attended a wedding in Alabama with her husband Zachary. Cell towers picked up Taylor's phone with Ashley's there as well. The defense had very little to work with. Although ballistics weren't able to match the bullet wound to any of the many guns in Ashley's collection, and there was no physical evidence on the heavily decomposed body, the circumstantial evidence alone was overwhelming. But Ashley tried to mount a defense. The evidence at trial established that Ashley had a bad back from her car accident and cannot lift the 50-pound bag of cement without great pain. The defense also raised the fact that the medical examiner could not determine the exact time of death. Ashley's legal team also argued that the type of potting soil found on Taylor's body on Ashley's family farm had discrepancies in texture to what a Home Depot employee testified he helped Ashley purchase. In the end, it wasn't enough. After a 5-day trial and 4 hours of deliberation, the jury found Ashley McArthur guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced her to mandatory life in prison. If you want to write her, she's housed at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Ocala, Florida. As of the time of this video, Ashley tried to appeal her conviction and get a new trial on the basis that a photo of her crouching while holding a rifle was briefly shown to the jurors inadvertently, apparently prejudicing them against her. Her appeal was denied, and she looks very, very miserable in her life in prison. Okay, there's a lot I can say about this case, but I like to circle back to the lesson that not everyone you party with is your friend. You see, sometimes the qualities that make someone great to engage in party favors with aren't the same ones to let hold your money when you're in a bind. Sometimes when we're at our lowest, it's easy to reach out to others to build a support network. It's natural. But it's important to make sure our circumstances are not attracting bad company who are looking for victims to compound our problems even more. Incidentally, a few legal observers believed another basis for appeal for Ashley could have been that the judge at one point was speeding through the trial once it became imminent that a tropical storm was likely to disrupt it. For their part, her lawyers never made any objections, and it was never the basis for any appeal that I was able to find. One last thing. Now, a lot of this stuff probably didn't make it to trial due to an evidence rule of prior bad acts being somewhat prejudicial in the eyes of juries, but it came out during the police investigation that Ashley had stolen jukeboxes from her family's businesses and likely also stole from her own husband. He had gotten a settlement check for an injury he sustained on the job while they were married when he was still a cop. And basically, he just signed the money over to Ashley, the settlement money, once he got it, since she controlled all the finances in the household. Now, we already know most of that money went to Styx and her lover boy over there, but kind of makes you wonder, if push came to shove, would there have been even more bodies buried if she hadn't been stopped when she was? I guess, thank God, we'll never know. Well, guys, that's this week's episode. I appreciate you tuning in to RV Crime Kitchen. Again, my name is Ronnie. And guys, let me know, how did your pan-seared Florida grouper with smoked Gouda grits and tomato, bacon. Why that's a long. We gotta shorten that. But how did yours turn out? If you made it, I'm dying to find out. Mine was really, really good. You could probably tell from the video of me eating it. It was delish. Man, it was good. So, great recipe, nice and fresh. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Ring the bell to get notified of future videos. I put one out once a week. And look forward to seeing you next time on RV Crime Kitchen. Be safe. Have a good one.